Hello there, my beautiful, lovely, delightful, and talented internet friends. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Trauma Talk. We do have a surprise co-host today, Miss Sophie, sleeping very cutely over in the corner there. We can't talk too loudly. We might interrupt the queen's sleep. So lately I've been thinking a lot about a single line from a show that I heard a few months ago. This video is specifically for those of us who have lived and grown up in purity culture, which is the conservative evangelical Christian mindset of a virgin is the best thing that you can be, like sex is wrong and dirty and bad and sinful and horrible and dirty before marriage, but then after marriage it's amazing and perfect and all of your sexual light switches will switch on. It's a very complicated thing with a lot of facets. I've done a few other videos. I'm gonna link that playlist down below and also link some additional information if purity culture is not something you're familiar with. But for those of us who have grown up in purity culture, allow me to continue. Or if you're just interested, please listen on with us. So I had a couple friends who recommended that I watch this show on Netflix called Sex Education. It's a decent show, however, it is entirely worth watching for one single scene, and that is the scene that takes place between a high school student and a sex therapist that the school has brought in for students to talk to if they have any questions. And this student comes in almost in tears and explains to this therapist that she doesn't want to have sex. She's just never been interested in it. Like it doesn't do it for her and she doesn't know why, and she's so broken and this is so wrong about her and what can she do to fix it? And what this therapist says in response after a little bit of dialogue is, sex doesn't make us whole, so how could it make you broken? Still makes me want to cry when I think about it. Growing up in youth groups and conferences, I was taught, and this message was reinforced over and over and over and over again, that the holiest and best and most beautiful and perfect and pure thing that I could be, the thing that I should be, is something that is not a sexual being. Until I was married, and then I needed to be the most sexual being, right? We were taught that any lustful sin was of the devil and bad and needed to be repented of and squashed down, and that going too far, whatever anyone's definition of too far with a boy was, if you were a girl, was damaging your value, that you were now damaged goods to that person, and you don't want to have to explain to your husband on your wedding night the people that you were unfaithful with to him before you even met him, do you? So don't kiss that boy, save that kiss for marriage. I feel like growing up in purity culture, there was this weird dichotomy that happened with sex and sexuality where simultaneously it was the most important thing in the entire world. It is what determined your value, it's what determined your worth as a human being and a woman and a wife. Only speaking from my experience as a cis woman in the Christian church, that's it. Like it was everything, right? Like being sexually pure was everything to your value to God, to other people, to your future husband. But then on the flip side, you were expected not to have any sexual feelings or thoughts or lust or anything like that. So it's like sex and sexuality were both elevated to this platform near God and also just decimated as something that you should have nothing to do with, which leaves for a very confused 13-year-old and 17-year-old and 29-year-old, because these teachings still linger in me today and they're still something I'm trying to figure out. However, going back to that line in that show, sex doesn't make us whole, so how can it make us broken? That is a message I so desperately wish that youth group leaders had shared with me as a 16-year-old, to the point that it makes me a little bit emotional. In purity culture, we were taught that sex did make us whole or broken. Sex had a irreversible stamp on our souls. And my friends, that is not true. Yes, absolutely, sex is a powerful and an important thing if you are someone who is interested in sex at all. But in no way and on no universe does it determine your brokenness or your wholeness. It is a topic and an action and an interaction that's really important that someone is educated on and comfortable with, along with many, many other things. At the end of the day, sex is just sex. I'm not saying that to devalue the power that it can have, because it does have that. However, I was taught to think of it as determining so much more than it actually did. The number of sexual partners that you've had does not have an impact on your value as a human being. If you are someone like me and some of the choices about sex and sexuality were taken away from you outside of your consent, that does not in any way impact your value or your worth. That doesn't make you broken. If you have absolutely no desire or interest in sex, if you identify as asexual and sex just isn't your thing, that does not make you broken. Whatever your sexual orientation is or your sexual history, that's all that it is. It's an orientation, it's a history, it is a big deal, but it doesn't determine whether or not you are worth something or nothing as a person. In varying degrees, I have spent the past 3 decades of my life feeling like in some way I am damaged or broken because of sex or sexuality. For years, I felt like I was broken or bad or wrong or dirty because I had sexual thoughts and urges, and oh God, what did that make me? A lustful, sinful, bad human being. At least that's what I was taught. And I have spent many years of the past decade feeling like something was broken or shattered or wrong with me because someone took sexual choices out of my hands and made those for me. Is that traumatizing? Does it leave a mark? You betcha. But does it mean that I am a broken human being because someone used power and control and used sex and sexuality against me? No, it does not mean that. Whatever your story, whatever your background, wherever you're coming at this from, I thought it was really important to draw attention to this concept, which I do believe is true, that sex does not make us whole. Therefore, it does not hold the power to make us broken. I feel like that is a message I am just now beginning to actually feel and understand after wrestling with this for decades. And I honestly hope that it is an idea and a message that can continue to spread throughout society. So many of us, for a wide variety of reasons, spend decades of our lives feeling broken or wrong for things like our sexual orientation, our sexual choices, lack thereof, and there's no need for that. That's unnecessary but very real pain that doesn't need to be perpetuated. If you're feeling this today, just let me say one more time, you, my friend, are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. As powerful as it can be, sex does not hold the power to make us whole, and it also does not hold the power to break us. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today, listening. I would appreciate any thoughts, any comments that you have to share. Recovering from purity culture, dismantling purity culture, it's a Facebook group that I created, I'm a part of. Check it out down below if it's something you're interested in. It's something I'm very actively in the process of. Since I started talking about like these messages that I was taught in purity culture, I found it increasingly more difficult to try to put things into words, and that's always like a big flag for me that is something I need to work on processing and work on finding healing for myself. So in the moments I do feel like I can talk about this, it's something I'm really grateful to be able to do, because I think many more people were affected by these types of messages than I ever thought. I was affected by it way more than I ever thought, and it's something I will continue speaking about. Like I said, if you're interested in joining a community of people also interested in healing from purity culture, check out the link down below. This is not a group for people who are interested in learning about purity culture, researching, or finding education. It's for those of us who actually have had experiences within this. So if that is you, please feel free to apply down below. A huge thank you to my patrons who continue to support these videos. You have my deepest gratitude, and I'm truly grateful for what you do for me. Thank you. And to you watching this video, thank you so much for spending a few minutes out of your day here with me today. You could be anywhere in the world doing anything, and you chose to hang out with me for a few minutes, and that means a lot to me. Thank you. I love you guys. I'm thinking about you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.